morning, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Intelligent Leader podcast. This is your host, Shashank Garg, and with me, we have our guest, Kabir Patel. Hello, Kabir.
Hi, Shashank. I'm thrilled to be here.
Kabir is the global head of IT at AstraZeneca, overseeing technology capabilities in drug development, manufacturing, digital and sustainability. Kabir, I'm told you have a strong passion for innovation, and you've been playing a key role in driving all the digital transformation, especially in operations. And with operations, I'm sure you enjoy solving real world problems, building high performing teams, and delivering tangible results. Prior to AstraZeneca, you've had, held various consulting roles and engineering roles at Oracle and Thomson Reuters. Once again, welcome to the podcast, Kabir. And as I know, you've been deeply involved in driving IT transformation at AstraZeneca. So can you share a little bit more about, what excites you the most and how are you doing what you're doing? Yeah.
Thanks, Shashank. My background lies in leading technology teams with a strong emphasis on pharma tech, manufacturing, digital, and sustainability. Now, in today's rapidly evolving landscape, tech is a truly center of everything we do. Right?
Yeah.
It's driving significant change, it's driving innovation across industries. I'm particularly excited about how advancements in technology, especially AI, the emerging ideas around agentic AI, is not only changing the game, but is unlocking immense value for
Yeah.
all the businesses and as society as a whole. So the most exciting part to me is to be part of this wave that we have with us and contribute towards making a value created.
Awesome. Awesome. You spoke about AI and especially agentic AI. Why don't we begin there? Let's discuss what you believe is agentic AI, what it is not. Just love to get your thoughts there.
Thanks, Shashank. I think it's an interesting question, right? Like every time we get a new definition, a new concept, I think initially there are multiple ways people look at the same idea.
Yeah.
Now, to me, AI solutions with a degree of agency, which enable them to operate independently to achieve broader objectives, is fundamentals of being an agentic AI solution, right? So unlike traditional AI, where you have predefined tasks and you respond to specific commands, agentic AI models they should function as digital agents capable of independently assessing situations, choosing actions, and learning from experiences.
Yeah.
So if you want to define it very crisply, I would say a solution that is able to reason, act, and learn is agentic AI.
Yeah. I like to add in a few things. If you were to compare agentic AI, general automation, RPA, for example, which has been happening for a while, and traditional AI on the key features like complexity, human interaction, decision making, adaptability, goal orientation, and then eventually autonomy. As compared to the others, you would find agentic AI very high, both in complexity and autonomy. You'll find it lower than anything else on the human interaction, which, we've been talking about quite a bit, that all the AI that is being worked upon till now kind of falls in the assistive bucket, right? Where the eventual decision making is with humans, and rightfully so. But agentic AI just takes it a notch further. And as you were saying, right, that being able to assess and then being able to reason and then make decisions, I think it takes it forward. It's also very adaptable. It's meant to be adaptable, so it can adjust to scenarios that they were not given to it. So it has to have the intelligence, and you use the word agency, the amount of agency. So that's really the difference. And we've been part of the whole technology revolution from the field of data and then the traditional analytics and AI for the last 5 to 10 years. I think this is where things are getting really advanced and complex. And we all need to tread carefully here. Just chatbots are not agentic AI.
Yeah, I think that's a very important distinction. to know what is not agentic.
Yeah.
One of the things that still amuses me a lot in my everyday is number of things that comes to me with the pretext of being agentic. These are similar things that I used to get when generative AI was a thing, where in reality they are AI workflows with a user interface.
Yeah.
For something to be a very complex solution that can do the cognitive thinking of a human and replicating that in a difficult, ever-changing scenario is not a very simple solution to build. But
Yeah.
the promise is there. We're almost getting there in terms of how technology is maturing.
Yeah.
So I think the future looks really bright. But you're right. Not everything is agent.
Not just chatbots, not just rule-based engines, automated trading bots. You wouldn't put
Not
it.
just an API call to LLMs, right?
Yeah. Good. I think we're all clear on what this means. Just taking maybe a step forward now. From actually, before I go there on examples, right? Do you want to talk a little bit about what you would call sort of the building blocks for AI and especially agentic AI? Any comments there?
Yeah, I mean, we can look at like agentic AI building blocks and how the idea can be made real and how to go about it. So to start with, the core frame of technology still needs few things, right? You need the memory, the context.
Yeah.
You need some sort of a reasoning engine. You need a foundational model. Then finally, you need some tools. So what I mean by tools is ability to act. So integration points, APIs, way to conduct the actions.
Yeah.
Now, in addition to that, to construct something like an agentic AI ground up, you'll end up using a number of AI training techniques, right? From machine learning, deep learning to reinforce certain things. You probably need the system to comprehend and respond to natural language commands, to recognize the patterns in data, refine decision making over time, which is like learn and adapt to the situation that is changing. And finally, one fundamental thing that is still almost getting there, but not there in a big way, is this characteristic of chaining. So what I mean is ability to break complex requests into manageable subtasks, prioritizing them, then reasoning them, and then executing them.
Yeah.
I think that chaining technique becomes a fundamental aspect of any good agentic AI solution. Until you kind of crack that, they're still not there.
Yeah. Absolutely. Maybe it'll become clearer when we discuss some examples. From your experience, what use cases are you see evolving across the value chain, especially pharma value chain, drug development, supply chain, commercial operations, and where do you see the big bets here for this
Well,
specific technology? Yeah.
Sure. So Shashank, I think we both recognize the impact is huge.
Yeah.
So this is the big moment in the technology frame, same as the internet, same as when the smartphones became a thing, same as now AI moving to become more autonomous in every which way. So impact is huge. Now, before I get to pharma, let me give you a way of looking at use cases, because the big reality in front of us is that the use cases is everywhere. Pretty much most things can have a significant value unlocked using the tech. So let me give you an example. Like, let's start with the basics. If you are into business of any kind of a service, be it IT service or any service function, what you traditionally have is a knowledge worker with experience and knowledge. Now, if you add agentic AI to this, and think that now what AI could do is autonomously detect system failures, initiate corrective actions, even predict failures, which means you are faster to resolution, you're reducing downtimes, you're having lower operational costs, and on top of it, you can enable more personalized service because your AI is learning from the user behavior and adjusting responses. So fundamentally, the way services gets delivered or supports get delivered is changing with use of agentic AI. So that's more of a example everyone can relate with. But if I come to like specific to pharma or the industries we are in, let's take example of supply chain. Everyone is in the business of supply chain. What happens today is if you have an issue or you detect a failure in the network,
Yeah.
someone has to look into the problem, figure out what are the options on the table, take the actions as needed, and fix the problem. Now, the whole thing is time consuming, takes a lot of resources, and is very reactive. But you could imagine a future where organizations are building more resilient systems, let's say self healing supply chains, a series of capabilities that can see data end to end with agentic AI at the center, detecting failures, simulating scenarios, prescribing actions, learning from the past recommendations, and then taking actions. So, agents overseeing the supply chain with a self healing AI capability at the end. So, a lot of fundamentals of the business and the processes will be reimagined in the way you execute them.
Yeah, you bring up a good point. I mean, I'm also realizing, and that's what I tell our clients, that we don't need to look at newer use cases. The use cases exist. These are the same problems that we tried solving using automation at some point. These are the same problems that we use predictive AIs for. These are the same problems, a lot of the data analytics. Focus is enabling for the humans to make decisions. We just have to see the current state of technology, the data that exists for the training, for the model to become autonomous, and we have the tech to make it self-learning. And lastly, are we ready to reimagine the business process? I think that's where at least we are finding across our clients, wherever we are running these kind of pilots or trying to build agentic AI examples, that not every business leader is ready to reimagine the business process. This is another level of autonomy. Will not get there, in the next 2 quarters. We will not get there maybe in a year. But whatever experiments we are able to, whatever you talked about the building blocks. If you are able to at least get 2 of the building blocks built this year, that gives us a higher chance to get to some of what you said, a year from now. So that's how the journey is going to be. I've also realized that if you're an organization or a business group that didn't experiment with assistive AI till now, let's not start with agentic AI, because that's let's get people familiar with the AI terminology. Let's at least get them used to human in the loop, maybe a lower level autonomy, and just the assistive pieces of AI, and then they can take
Sure.
that next step as well. Kabir, are there things that, because I want to put a time perspective to all this, right? And you can talk about your role, or you can talk about industry in general. What are the areas that you think organizational leaders in the context of pharma can look at in the next 12 months, for example?
I think if you want to look at like short to near term,
Yeah.
probably focus on the areas that were always the low hanging fruits for automation and assisted AI. For example, any of your corporate functions like procurement, finance, HR, IT's back office. You look at areas where you see significant human effort going in for very little value.
Yeah.
You can then build on that foundation.
Yeah.
In that frame, then go after the areas where the cognitive functions require certain amount of maturity,
Yeah.
but the impact is big of the decisions. So you build the pyramid like that, right? You start where I think traditionally you started with automations, but then you end with the high value decisions.
That's a good way of looking at it. And actually, it's consistent with how we see a lot of our clients run their experimentation and some of the first use cases in production. After having done this for 18 months, at least on the assistive AI side, I can easily see the trend that chances of putting something in production is much higher on the internal function side. As you're saying, back office, where because the risk is low. You can control it. You're not touching your clients, consumers, business side that much. But once you've learned from what worked in your organization, then you can much easier to apply. And at that point, you also have the track record of having done something very successfully, be it internal. But I think that's a great way to start. Thank you for that. Moving on from here, Kabir, I know a lot of organizations still struggle to go from like scaling AI is a common topic of concern, and especially if you talk about enterprise adoption. So, what would you share sort of the key considerations for embedding and scaling? Both, maybe talk about Gen AI as well, because not everybody
Sure.
has been able to scale that event, right? And then maybe agentic AI later.
Sure. Shashank, that's a very, very important point. And the funny thing about that, in my perspective, is the considerations have not really changed.
Hmm.
So what I mean by that is, whenever we worked, even in a very different frame or in projects in past, you start with the idea that what are the key ingredients I need to be successful. Even for Gen AI, to that matter, agentic AI, you do need to get your data right. That consideration is still there.
Yeah.
You need to prioritize use cases and need strong partnership and sponsorship in your organization to drive a change like this. Then you need your basic tech infrastructure, call it AI ops, LM ops, basic frame of how tech gets engineered.
Yeah.
You need trust in your AI models, foundational models, your data systems. The trust plays a big role in the next key consideration, which is culture and adoption. So you need to work very, very hard on getting the culture right, because a lot of times there is a fear of this new tag. There is a lack of awareness and understanding of the tag. Probably you're reimagining the process and that's not landing. So the consideration of change and culture is important. And finally, the big distinction between Gen AI and agentic AI, in my view, is the technological. Gen AI is getting there in terms of maturity. Agentic AI is a very new idea for some of the complex use cases that you see.
Yeah.
So a key consideration is how mature is the tech for what you're trying to do with it. Would
Yep.
distinguish between Gen and agentic AIs, but broadly for AI, data, prioritization and sponsorship, change and culture, trust, having the right kind of technology engineering frame of operations or AI ops.
Moving forward, if you look at the technology landscape, I don't know of a firm of any size, of significant size, who hasn't come and launched their own agentic AI product or framework in the last 6 months. Be it NVIDIA, be it the big three, Amazon, Google, Microsoft, all the SaaS players, the large SaaS players have their own. And then we see, if you follow the Y Combinator and the VC circles, you see at least 20 startups, brand new startups, who have a agentic AI framework or product platform. So, any thoughts on, how will the technology landscape evolve? What do you think an enterprise like yours is likely to choose as you go on your own agentic AI journey?
Well, it's a very interesting question, Shashank, because it is true that a lot of vendors, pretty much every vendor who is in the space, is launching agentic AI product or models. But if you really look a little bit more closely, the game of winning products is not there yet. So this is like a step one of people trying to win, because everyone understands, in my view, that foundational models are going to be commodity.
Yes.
What wins are the products you build on them. And that journey is not very clear today. So that's a data point one, right? Then if we look at what an enterprise really has today, is a lot of enterprise software bought in last 10, 15 years, mostly SaaS.
Yeah.
In that play, only 1% of them are having agentic AI capabilities as of today.
Yeah.
But in next 2-3 years, the
You're
prediction
gonna
is
find
this
out
would be anywhere between 30 to 40%.
even more.
So even more, right? So a lot of that we are sitting on is becoming agentic as part of the role.
Yeah.
Then you come to the third important idea, which is what happens to enterprise is we'll probably have three options. Either we buy agentic AI pre-built products, to my earlier point, that someone will create winning products out there. Second option, we integrate some of what we see in the market with some of our platforms and create an experience. Or we build using our standard tools and engineering capabilities and deliver something that is completely custom built for our enterprise.
Yeah.
I suppose the answer is all three, depending on the use case.
Yeah.
Probably we'll look at speed, cost, and risk and see on those parameters which is a good option to go. Most large enterprise at any given point of time in 3 years would have a combination of all.
Yeah. Fair point. Kabir, on this one, I'm certainly seeing across our clients because I believe that if you reflect back on your answer on what are the building blocks of agentic AI, right? And the data piece and the ability to have context and then the reinforcement learning, continuously learning and then integrations, multiple integrations, right? So out of the three things that you said, which is the large platforms, then all the SaaS players or custom build, my mind is on the custom build or the large platform because you have to have much more than a SaaS one product. This is a integration play. This is far more of an integration play than choosing one particular SaaS product and sticking to their play, unless the whole use case can be embedded within that.
I agree, but equally, I think what has happened is, and this may sound counterintuitive, but what I think has happened is a lot of enterprise software has created certain amount of rigidity within the
Yeah.
enterprise.
Yeah.
Because it creates boundaries.
Yes.
What a software is supposed to do.
Yes.
We are moving towards completion of task, a task-oriented play, which is more integrated,
Yes.
depending on what needs to be done to achieve the outcome.
Yes.
So that I absolutely agree with. However, I also feel a lot of very mature vendors in this space are also thinking the same, and they will reimagine what their product really means.
Yeah. 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 Unless that happens. Yes, you're right.
Because they're sitting on a lot of our enterprise information, I think they have a big chance. But yes, if they think the way enterprise software used to think, then it's very difficult to see the value creation there.
Absolutely. Yeah, the old mantra of let's lock this client down, this use case down in our application, and then we have nothing to worry. It's not going to work. You have to broaden, you have to reimagine your own products. You will see a lot of reimagining of the current SaaS software vendors.
I mean, the today's SaaS is tomorrow's agents is just what form they reimagine themselves.
Yeah. Yeah. And it has to be a broader play, unfortunately. So
agree.
Kabir, moving on, just last question. Where do you think we are headed with all this, right? So what's beyond agentic AI? Any thoughts there?
I mean, your guess is as good as mine. It's a very fast moving space.
Yeah.
It's probably so difficult to kind of predict, as my answer today will change in 2 weeks' time. So things are rapidly moving. Now, of course, what we are seeing, we're seeing models that can deconstruct complex problems, that can query data sources, provide comprehensive multi-step solutions very effectively and efficiently. You are seeing solutions that can pursue high level objectives, including human cognition in some form, based on what they reason as the right next step. So these are the kind of capabilities that we never had before, right? Even when we moved from automation to bots to few other technologies that came in, we never had this idea where someone can actually do what I just described. So to me, the the future has so much potential and so much value that it can go in any direction. Few things that I definitely see will happen is something like this, that in the frame of agentic AI, probably it will move into a direction where the next big thing would be a physical system with agentic AI at the center. So you can see more advancement in robotics at that area where the systems become driven by agentic, but they have physical structures to get
Yeah.
a lot of things done.
Yeah.
You can, of course, then see more general intelligence that everyone is like trying to get to as the step. In terms of use within the enterprise sphere, I think enterprise software is fundamentally coming to a important fork. I do not see someone starting a workday today in the same way workday was, right? So
Yeah.
it's fundamentally different. So
Yeah.
enterprise software space, I think, is changing. You can
Yeah.
also go into the zone of whether this can lead to a step change in a lot of new discoveries, right? Newer drugs, innovative materials, things or the problems that you were never thought were possible to solve. You can have wars without humans. Well, preferably we don't want wars. But I think a lot of areas are fundamentally can be reimagined. And finally, I will leave you with one thought that I think may happen. It's like for years, we almost equated standardization to the way of reducing cost anywhere, right? So people run
Yeah.
large programs to standardize. I think slowly what we'll see is personalization is going to be so cheap. There
Yeah.
are a lot of experiences can be personalized based on a persona.
Yeah.
Like in your personal lives, you may have your own assistant, you may have your own itinerary, experiences, your preferences, your own movie, right?
Yeah.
Enterprise world, depending on who is logging in, the whole screen and the experience can be tailored and different. So it's fundamentally in my head, it changes from personalization being this expensive thing or customization
Yeah.
being a bad word to becoming the way a good experience gets delivered.
I love the way you imagined this future. I agree to many of the things that you said. You're right. The combination of having this intelligence being available to everyone in the enterprise or in our personal, with a combination of self-learning and automation, can completely change the way we do things today, including enterprise software, including how many of our roles are structured today, how our teams operate. And I'm certainly in the bucket that it's a great opportunity for everyone who's listening this podcast, for all of us to get excited, participate in this reimagining. I also love the way you described that. You're right. For a long time, standardization, we just, the way to cut cost was standardization, and
Good.
personalization was a really bad thing. And with AI, that's no longer the case. That's
Mhm.
absolutely no longer the case. 5 years ago, if I had to support 6 different personas, there's enterprise software, SaaS vendors would charge you by persona.
Good.
You don't need to. You don't need to anymore. So great thoughts, Kabir. And I'm excited about what this future holds for all of us. So thank you very much. It's been a pleasure having you on the show today. Your insights on what AI, agentic AI is, real life applications, and how the future can be imagined is incredibly valuable. Thank you for taking the time. Thank you.
Thanks, Shashank, for having me, and we'll catch up soon.
Thank you. And to our listeners, we hope you enjoyed this episode of The Intelligent Leader with me, Shashank, and our guest, Kabir. If you liked what you heard, please consider sharing it in your network with the hashtag Intelligent Leader. And don't forget to hit the subscribe button, and you wouldn't want to miss the next episode. Thanks for tuning in, and see you next time.